Usually at that point, no, you're looking for a share screen thing.
I found it.
Okay. If you click on it, usually something will pop up with a picture of your different screens and saying, which one would you like to share?
Well, it has desktop one, but it doesn't want to share that one.
Did you click on it?
Yeah, it didn't do anything. This always goes so specked out. There it is.
Notebook? What?
Oh, yes, I'm supposed to put my earphone on.
No. I just say that.
Okay, I'll try it again. Share screen. Desktop.
Is there a make it so button somewhere?
It's not working.
You're disappointing me, Jeff.
I'm disappointing myself. You're not trying to screen share, are you?
I'm not. I'm solidly tracking down the slides, just, in case somehow you can't and you want me to do it. No.
I got a screen that says desktop one, whiteboard, iPhone, iPad, yada, yada, yada.
And which one did you pick on?
Well, the desktop one is a big exclamation mark.
Yeah. There's DCI. All right.
So I'm not sure this one is actually my deficiency.
Okay.
I'm about to send you the slides.
Okay, yeah, I can find them in PDF on the national website, but I can't find them in actual PowerPoint.
Colin mode.
Unless, of course, Chris has them and he wants to share them instead.
He may not be here the whole time. He's patrolling right now.
Okay, that would make it difficult then. All right, let me go to my inbox.
I'm about to send it to you.
Yep.
Oh, it's big. 22 megs.
That's okay, I think.
Send. Looks like it's sent. So for those that have just joined in, we're into the normal Zoom oopsie. Did they get it to you?
Not yet, but in the meantime, I have somebody who doesn't know whether we're on Zoom or Teams, so I'm sending them. Okay, I've sent that. I've got that. I've got that. I've got that. Okay, I have the slides.
Cool.
And I'll open them up. And so, okay. So,
so while we're waiting, I can't really tell how many people are here. I only see 4 or 5 on my thing, but that's okay. So we started the Edelweiss CADS season yesterday and today with a brand new 6 gear yesterday come in. So we got her all set up, took her out on the hill for 6 or 7 runs, did really, really well. She'll be in the program this year. Just don't know if we can take her for a half day or a full day. And then today we had a very nice gentleman from Germany that wanted to come and borrow some equipment, a Proschberger monoski, set them all up, gave him some lessons, put him on the hill. He did amazing. So he's going to ski for a couple weeks around Ottawa, maybe Tremblant. Quite happy to help him out. And he was ecstatic that he got some gear and can ski with his family and friends while he's here. And we did our first day of new volunteer training today with 5 people. That went fairly well.
All right. So I believe I have shared my screen. Yep,
I got it.
you got it.
Okay.
Yeah, we're seeing it.
And I believe, Jeff, I have given you mouse control over my screen. Or you should say have a thing that says, do you want to control Colin's
Can you
screen?
control Colin's screen? Oh, yeah. But guess what?
What?
I can't click on it.
All righty then. I will be your next screen.
Colin will be the next one. Okay, so here we go. We're almost on time, a little quicker than last week.
Colin is called being Vanna.
Yes.
Vanna. So how many people do we have, Colin? The same people? Anybody new? Anybody have to introduce themselves? Or are we all good?
We have 17 participants, including you and me.
So that's less than last time. We have to get those people that didn't sign up and make sure we give this to them later. Anyway, this is the level 1 ASDCI. And from the very beginning, I always wonder what the difference between a level 1 and a level 2 ASDI is. The information that you receive from this one, there really isn't a whole lot more information to go between level 1, level 2. All it is level of skiing and going to some different ways to get them to ski with connected turns and to a little higher level than what we expect from a level 1. But as to respect to the autism spectrum disorder, cognitive intellectual, this is the only lecture that you get as part of this. So slide, please, Vanna. Perfect. So first of all, we're going to go through understanding Can everybody hear me okay? Can anybody not hear me?
All good.
Okay. So understanding cognitive impairments and ASD is the first part of it. Some teaching strategies for you, which you will find that we pretty much talked about in the last one, because they're not a whole lot different than for skiing with somebody with a visual impairment or a lot of the strategies are very much the same. This one is a little bit different, and I think Chris covered it last time with the do, think, da, da, da thing. We covered this fairly well last time, and there's 1 or 2 slides on that later on that if you don't remember, it'll just be a quick refresher for you. We'll do a little bit on assessment of abilities, communications and communication pattern, behaviors, motivations, which is the bulk of what you should take away from this, and kinesthetic learning, which we did talk about last time as well. Slide, please, Vanna. Oh, by the way, you have any questions at any time? I can only see 1 name on my screen, so Colin will have to be my, somebody has their hand up. Please do ask questions if you have. And your first question, anybody, speak up, take your mute off and tell me, what are some cognitive impairments? Anybody? Don't all answer it again.
Traumatic brain injury.
Absolutely. Perfect. Anybody else? I'm going to cross these off as we get to them. TBI, absolutely. Traumatic brain injury. The titles should give you a couple of clues. Anybody else? Does Down syndrome ring a bell to anybody?
Oh, okay.
Autism spectrum?
Autism spectrum?
There you go. Anything else?
ADHD.
Sure. Think of
Oh.
your elderly grandparents or parents.
Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's, sure.
And dementia.
Sure, absolutely. That's almost all that I have on the list. There are so many things out there that could cause a cognitive impairment. It's not unlimited, but you got the majority. The only other one that is on the list that I have is Fragile X, which you may or not be familiar with, but it is on one of the slides, so we'll bring them up. Okay, some of the characteristics. If you were to look at somebody and say, hey, I think they have a cognitive impairment, what are some of the things that may jump out at you?
Low concentration.
Absolutely.
Connecting with the eyes, they may be looking away from us despite talking to us.
Absolutely.
Language issues.
Absolutely. Anything else?
Behavioral issues.
Perfect. Keep going. The list is almost endless, and I don't think you can say anything wrong. So just keep throwing them out there. We did actually. Go ahead. Sorry.
Gross motor
good.
difficulties.
Yep. Muscle tone, coordination,
Yeah.
and that's just about all on the list that I have. That's very good.
Mhm.
The other one, the only one nobody said was agility, but that comes into muscle tone coordination. So good.
Sorry, Jeff, just as a quick one here.
Yep.
I just want to make sure that people are aware, though, that just because someone has gross motor skills or some challenges with physical disabilities doesn't always mean that they are have a cognitive impairment. And a great example of this usually is someone that is that has cerebral palsy. Cerebral palsy will not generally affect the cognitive side. It may from educational opportunities and so forth, but you have to be aware of that as well. So don't always assume, but those the visual characteristics that we're talking about are indicators, but not a finite or definitive list.
So I can give you a perfect example of that. I skied with a gentleman that had CP, could not speak effectively, very, very hard to understand. He understood everything. He could process everything. He just could not express himself. So it was very frustrating for me because I couldn't understand him, and him because I had trouble understanding him. I asked him many times that, does this make you mad that I can't understand you? He was, no, nobody can understand him. So yeah, he's actually working for the RCMP as a computer guy. So he is not stupid, but he has issues speaking and controlling his muscles. All right, slide, Vanna. So those were the things that we just talked about. Those are the answers to what you just gave me. I think you got all of them fairly well. Has anybody on not skied or worked with somebody with ASD or cognitive intellectual challenges? You don't have to tell me yes. Has anybody never worked with somebody like that?
Not in the skiing area, that's for sure.
It doesn't matter anywhere. Doesn't matter if you're on the hill, off the hill, if you've helped somebody, skied with somebody, done another sport, it's all the same thing. Okay. So now we're going to go through some of the disorders. So let's go to the first one, which everybody has heard of before. Genetic disorder caused by an extra chromosome called trisomy 21. Probably pronounced it wrong, and a lot of the words in here I probably will pronounce wrong. So when we go through these, there's about 4 or 5 different things that you will see, and they will say may include. And all those things that you mentioned on the first one, if you look through them, they're all very, very similar with very, very small differences between them. So for down, we have endurance, adaptive behavior, poor motor coordination, low muscle tone, loose joints, cardiac, respiratory, digestive, vision, hearing impairments. And we'll talk about alcanoaxial instability a little bit at the end. So as we go through, and Chris brought these up the other day, all of these things, endurance, adaptive, poor motor, all of those things we really have to think about as we're working with somebody. Somebody give an example of what we need to look for and what we should try. Oh, by the way, the little page 4 down in the bottom there with the pencil and page 4 in your in the workbook, in the section for ASDCI, that's a reference to that page in the textbook. So what do we need to look out? What should we sort of look for as we're seeing somebody with Down syndrome?
We would not want to go on a very, very long ride necessarily because of the endurance challenges. We may want to take breaks during the course of skiing, be very attentive to their level of fatigue.
Yep, absolutely. Anything else? I wish I had the names up here, then I could pick on people, but I don't have the names. Colin, pick on somebody.
I'm thinking temperature.
I'm going to pick on Sylvain.
Good call. Sylvain?
I was on mute.
Good answer, though.
I don't know. It's just this is so many ability to concentrate.
Yep, absolutely.
So that would fall under the adaptive behaviors
Behavior
deficits.
deficit. Yep.
What would be another one with Down syndrome that tends to be pretty common? That would fall under the adaptive behavior deficits, and we'll open that up for anyone. But Sylvain, if you know, you get first crack at it.
I'll pass.
I would think at the loading areas with the chairlifts when it gets really busy, that could be challenging.
Yeah. So one of the things with Down syndrome is stubbornness. And it's affected as well by endurance. Endurance is one of those funny ones that tends to exacerbate pretty much everything you see below, right? So your motor coordination gets affected by endurance. The adaptive behavior deficits get affected by endurance.
So,
Question.
yep,
Question.
go ahead.
What does Atlantoaxial
I'll get
instability mean?
let's do it now. So it actually is part of the Down syndrome spectrum, where between C1 and C2, so right at the base of the brain, you can have a loose joint there, basically, in non-medical terms. So it doesn't have the stability of the rest of the spinal cord. So bouncing around, falling down, hitting your head can be very detrimental to that condition. So in the ski program, water ski program, we only have 3 things that we really have to not take people into the program. And that's one of the things, because bouncing around on water skis, if you fall into the water, hit your head, not
So
good at all.
you actually won't see them in CADS either.
No.
So effectively what's happening is if you have an individual, an athlete that is coming in with Down syndrome, you can ask the question, have they been medically cleared for sports? i.e. have they been cleared for allantoaxial instability? The answer in 99.9% of times will be yes, because typically any type of sport is pretty much off the table if they don't. So it's one of those safety things that you have to be aware of. But the reality is you should not see it. And if somebody does sneak in with this issue, you need to bring that up to your program coordinator ASAP.
And there is the potential of having a parent that doesn't declare.
Ooh.
Because we don't go to doctors and ask for medical records. So if a parent does not declare it on our form when we ask for the medical information, we don't know.
Now, the vision impairment, is that vision impairment similar to VI, or does it manifest itself differently?
No, I would think it's just,
So
No.
potential blindness or low vision, stuff like that.
yep.
It has exactly the same thing. And the only challenge you may have there is how does it relate to the other scenarios, like and it can even change. It can be changed based on their adaptive behaviors or their endurance.
So,
Mhm.
what do they call it? Special Olympics programs. Now, this is just me. They're for people with cognitive issues, but one of their mandates is you have to be able to, for the ski program, ski in groups. So Down syndrome, for the most part, a lot of Down syndromes are in the program over at Forlage, because for a lot of them, they can ski in groups. Whereas when we get into ASD, a lot of those are not capable of functioning in a group environment. So anyway, okay,
Mhm.
next, enough on Down. How many people, before I go on, how many people thought it was Down syndrome? Because until about 5 days ago, I thought it was Down's syndrome. There is no S, it's Down syndrome. Okay. Vanna. Or Colin.
Haven't I already done it?
Yes,
Oh, yes, you did, sorry.
it's there already.
Okay, I may need help on this one, Chris. Fragile X syndrome. I actually thought Fragile X was the atlantoaxial instability. I thought that was Fragile X. They are not the same thing. Chris, have you got an explanation for it? Because I can only tell what the symptoms are and physical attributes that sort of go with Fragile X.
Yeah.
Long faces, large ears. There are some physical characteristics with it.
Yeah.
But I'm
And
not.
it can be very similar in terms of some of the visuals can also be similar to what you're seeing with Down syndrome. But you notice, what are we seeing with the first couple of points here? That's on the top of the screen. If we look at very similar. So if Vanna can go back one slide. All right, take a quick scan here and go forward one slide. Very, very similar. We get a couple of extra specifics with the tremors and stuff, but hyperactivity, interestingly enough, can actually show up as part of those behavioral where was the terms on the previous one?
Adaptive behavior deficits.
Exactly.
Yep.
Thank you. And memory deficits are both can exist in both.
Now, what does the stereotyped movements mean?
Anybody want to take a crack at it? Very prescriptive. Okay, sorry. See. Oh, Jeff, you want to take a crack at it?
Sure. A lot of movements, rocking.
Okay.
See a lot of rocking, repetitive motions, sort of That's the big one I remember, and you see that in a lot of our participants at Edelweiss, where they're
And-
continuously moving.
When you get the stereotype movements, what is that an indication of?
I would expect that they're upset
Yeah, it's stress.
or they're tired.
Exactly. So I would say most of the time when you get into the stereotype movements, it is an indicator that the comfort level is trending down. It's not necessarily, okay, we need to stop it. Obviously, if you're teaching a new drill, some people, you know, that can be stressful or it could introduce a little bit of stress. So you've got to be able to look at it, but it's something to be monitoring. People, those rocking movements tend to get a little bit bigger. It also could be stereotype movements, though, can be I need to do the same run at the same time, the same way. I have the same schedule. I have the same. So it's repetition.
So physical movements or utterances that are repetitive, rhythmic, and maybe ritualistic. Example include body rocking, hand flapping, or prolonged staring at objects, hands or fingers. That sort of thing. But okay.
So what's one thing we don't do with stereotype movements?
You don't grab
Hold
them
them.
to make them stop.
Exactly.
True.
We can change our behavior in our coaching and take them away from an environment that's increasing their stress or is exacerbating their concern, their concern, but we're not going to try to physically stop that movement.
Change their focus.
Exactly. Change the focus.
Take them to a quiet spot, get them away from people.
Darker.
Anything.
And that works really well in the shade. Find a shady spot on the side of the hill.
So Calabogie, if anybody's been there, they've sort of built an addition onto theirs. They have a quiet room. It's actually the adaptive washroom that they put into the new part of the building, but they have a little bed in the back of that. So nice, quiet, get away from everybody, just sit down for a second and see if that helps. Okay, slide, Vanna. Hey, learning disabilities refers to a whole bunch of things. Anybody give me one that is very, very common, a learning disability?
Dyslexia.
Perfect. Bingo. That's the one everybody's going to say right off the bat. So Colin, give me a name.
Of someone who has dyslexia?
Nope.
Oh.
Just give me a name of somebody on the video call.
Oh, I see. I will go with Dan.
Dan, I will guarantee you're not going to get this one. So difficulty with reading is dyslexia. What is difficulty with math? And
Wow. Okay. So there's two Dans. I'm going to defer to the other Dan, I think.
Oh, good
I
call.
meant you, Dan Fourier.
I'll give you a hint. These answers all start with DYS, so you can make something up after that.
Wow. No, I'm sorry.
Dysarrhythmia. Dysarrhythmia.
Dyscalculia.
Oh, that makes sense.
Sort of like a calculus thing in there.
Yeah, dyscalculia.
Okay, give me another name.
We'll
Dyscalculia,
go
very
with
good.
Marius Parent.
Okay, I'll give you the name. You tell me what it is. Dysgraphia. Difficulty with
Graphics or images.
close. Writing. Dyspraxia. Oh, I need a name first.
Oh, Griffin.
Dyspraxia. That one somebody may get. Anybody know it? Difficulty with fine motor skills, which is very appropriate for us. Next one.
Jill.
Problems with language.
Lingua.
It's called
Jill.
Jill.
Jill's having a problem with language.
That's right.
That anything?
I've got the answer.
Go.
Dysgephia.
Dysphagia. I'll give you the last ones. Auditory processing disorder is difficulty hearing sound differences, and visual processing disorder, difficulty interpreting visual information. So there is and that is not an exhaustive list that goes on and on and on and on. Okay, slide please, Vanna.
I think Jeff's issue is dyszoomia.
Dyszoomia?
There you go.
I got
I got a question from Chris Lee.
I got way more than that. Go ahead, Chris.
So in the booklet, we have discontrol. Would that be the inability to control himself? Would that be part of it? Or that would be different, or that's a different term?
Discontrol?
The inability to control behavior.
Beyond me. Chris, you got anything?
Yeah.
If it's in the book,
that's where you're getting into the Tourette's and so forth with more right, where you have or the inability to control movements. So you'll get the spasms every so often.
Yep.
So one of the things that a little bit less on the control side with Tourette's and so forth, but quite often with the learning disabilities, you also see those referred to more as the invisible disabilities, because there really is no visual cues that may be present.
Cool.
Wait a sec. When you're talking, this is under the category of cognitive impairment, right? And so if someone has a learning disability, you're going back to the fact that for whatever reason, they're not able to perhaps keep up intellectually with us, right?
Yep.
Well,
Not
that's
necessarily true.
yeah, you have to be careful. Learning disabilities, just like with all disabilities, have a very, very wide range. And so it is very difficult to say that they can't keep up. They may always get confused or switch the letters, or there's varying degrees.
It's different. It's not less, it's different.
Yes. And so how we teach has to be adapted to their how they process the information. But this is a super important thing where we're not going to assume lowest level and then have individuals feel like athletes feel that they are being whatever I want to say catered, but it's not catered, spoken down to or anything else, right? It's really important that you understand that it's a change in learning, just like we have the 4 learning or 5 learning styles. It's or 4 learning styles.
4 here.
It's really important that we're just adapting how we're using those learning styles to best affect an outcome for an individual.
Good. Brain injury, next one. Keep this moving along. So with any of these things that we're talking about, like Chris says, and we've mentioned many, many times, it can manifest itself in a million different ways to a million different levels. And these are just giving you some of the differences in some of what is out there. It doesn't mean we have kids in the program. I have no idea what they actually have, but I know what their traits are. I know what their triggers are. I know how they ski. I know that. So whether I can say they're this, that, or the other thing really doesn't impact me that much, but it's more important how it manifests and how we can help them and how we can get them skiing better. So brain injuries, acquired brain or injury, damage of the brain occurring after birth, that is not degenerative or genetic and is classified as either TBI, traumatic brain injury, or NTBI, which is funny, it doesn't say what NTBI is on this slide. Anybody want to take a guess? Yeah, okay. So of these, which is a stroke, TBI or NTBI?
NTBI.
Perfect. Let me give you my stroke story and put this through everything that we do throughout any of these, what we talk about later on. June 6th, had a stroke, lost control of my hand. And once I phoned 911 on myself, I realized after the 911 operator said, fire, police, or ambulance, and I answered with, I couldn't talk. So there is nothing in this God's green earth until they put the stuff into me to break up that clot that would change anything in my behavior of being able to talk or using my hand. So with all of these, you're not going to be able to change what is happening. All you can do is help with what is going on and try and find a way with whatever they have going on to help them better. But you're not going to change the disease, the brain injury, whatever they have. You can't change that. You have to help them get by that to ski better. Okay, blast injury.
That would be traumatic,
Yep, absolutely. Illness.
generally non-traumatic.
Somebody else. Brain tremors.
Non-traumatic.
Perfect. Violence.
Traumatic.
Meningitis.
Non-traumatic.
Perfect. That's good. And the last ones are pretty darn easy. So we have we had, I'm not sure they're coming back this year. We have a home that used to bring 4 or 5 traumatic brain injury folks to come downhill skiing, and then they did water skiing. Great outing for the guys. I absolutely loved it. Each of them was incredibly different, but they were all traumatic brain injuries from one form or the other. But what they could do, what they couldn't do, their mobility, their thought, their memory, everything was 100% different in all 5 of the guys that were coming out. Next one, brain injury again. So is there a whole lot different between these and what we've talked about prior? I think most of them are pretty much the same. Physical balance, agility, coordination, reaction time, fatigue, same as the other one. Sensory vision could be effective, cognitive learning memory, and psychological mood disorder, impulsivity. Let me just give a quick one on cognitive memory. One of those 5 guys was traumatic brain injury that had a huge deficit of memory. So he would come week after week after week, and I'd go, hey, remember what you did last week? And he'd go, no. Nope. Absolutely didn't remember anything that happened the week before, but we put skis on him, we put him on the hill, and he skied incredibly well and improved in the program a whole lot. So if you got him to do something and do something enough times, it became ingrained in him, and he got better and better and better skiing. He was actually a very, very good skier and a very, very good water skier as well. So even though he didn't remember people, he didn't remember what he did last week, the skiing and water skiing just became part of his life. And even if it was from year to year, he'd put the skis on and away he'd go, almost where he was from the year before.
So I'm just going to pull it back to our instructing here for a second. So one of the things that you guys are going to be looking for, or we're going to be looking for as course conductors, is the safety aspects in terms of the various disability areas that we're talking about. In the cognitive disability side that we've covered so far, what are the 2 big safety concerns that we've come across? I'll give you the hint. One of them is on this page, and another is from a different page.
Towards the bottom, maybe on this page.
So let's, Catherine, give me one. Seeing as I see your name there.
Thank you. So we're talking about safety.
Safety. There's two big safety concerns that we've covered so far. So let's use, and anybody else can pop in here. There's one word in here that really triggers potential safety as time goes on.
I would think
Impulse control.
impulsivity
Yeah.
Okay.
is a concern.
I think memory, because you want to make sure they're safe, and if you want to check that they know what they need to do to be safe before you even start.
Okay. And I like this as discussions. This is perfect. We'll take one more. Anybody else?
Chris, how about speed?
Sorry?
I'm thinking speed control as a safety issue.
Okay, so
I'm going to say that comes down to fatigue and reaction time.
and that was Todd, yes. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So I would say the first three that we were talking about there, memory, speed, and sorry, there's the other one was more, I would say, our coaching of skills and as we're progressing. Whereas fatigue is one of those safety things that happens throughout the day, where what we're looking at is, okay, what are teaching techniques at the beginning of a day versus how we're going to progress in the future. Their ability to stop at the beginning versus the ability to stop at the end of a lesson is one of those safety things that we have to take into consideration. And then the other big safety one happened to be with our Down syndrome slide, which is, anybody remember where the red flag was?
The atlantoaxial instability.
Exactly. So those are two good things to be able to keep in your mind, and not only for your coaching but also for your course conductors to be able to say, hey, I know the safety aspect. Can I have my little check mark, please?
Sometimes impulsivity is very impulsive. We had a young lad that was very used to structure. It had to go bang, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. He was in the ski line trying to get on the lift, and it was left, center, right, and then the guy messed up and missed left and went to center, and he happened to be on the left, and that upset him to no end. And he acted out because of it. And it was exceedingly impulsive. Okay. That one would be almost impossible to catch because there was nothing prior to help you to. It was just because it was impulsive, and you never know what the trigger is. And it just happened to be, he missed them on the way around. Okay. So we have talked about this. This was Chris's discussion from last time. So in the middle is the first part of what we'll talk about later on in this presentation, is developing a positive relationship. Who haven't we bugged here? I now have Darren, have we used you yet? Positive relationship. What can you do with your student in order to develop a positive relationship?
Just always be positive. You don't want to say negative and focus on bad things, point out things that they're doing well.
Sure, absolutely. Griffin? Now I'm dangerous. I have a list. Is there a Griffin in the midst?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Can you say that again?
Positive relationships. How can we develop that with our skier? What kind of things can we do?
Doing stuff like, outside of being on like necessarily a hill, like say like going up the chairlift, just like talking to them, learning about like their lives and stuff, maybe eating lunch with them during like breaks and stuff like that.
Absolutely. One more, I will say, Colin. What the heck?
What the heck?
You weren't expecting it, were you?
No, you've covered the one I was going to say, which was talking to them. What else would I say to keep a good relationship? I would pay attention to whether they are tired or not, and make sure you're not really trying to make them do something they don't want to do right now.
Sure. And Chris had mentioned a good one. If you know what, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say,
I would like to get their input, you know, like to to say what they would like to do that day or what they've enjoyed, would they like to do it again, etc., so that they feel a sense of control.
So I think Chris last time had said, find out their likes. If they like some cartoon, watch the cartoon and interact with them about that cartoon if you can. So building that relationship, hey, I like what you do. I've proven it. I've taken the time to find out something I can talk to you about. That creates a pretty positive relationship. However, never, ever, ever ask what their favorite song is so you can sing it on the lift, because then you wind up doing that every single time up the lift.
So,
and I don't sing very well. Go
one
ahead.
thing that I haven't heard, and it's interesting, is why do we come out? Why do people come out to a recreational sport? I'll give you a hint. It's not the 4-letter F word, but it does start with F. Oh, nice.
Food?
Fun.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you, John. Absolutely. Keep it fun. Find different ways to keep it fun.
Yeah.
Right. And then I'm going to pick on one thing, because this again goes back to our so Laura's going to answer this one. Bonus points, Laura. That positive relationship in the middle, what terminology do we use when we're building a plan and we're talking as an instructor to an athlete? It's 2 words. I'll give you the first letter. The first word starts with the L.
Learning contract.
Oh, yes.
Laura's voice changed, I think.
But I got it. Good. So that positive relationship is the first step towards a really good learning contract.
Or vice versa.
Yep.
Okay, we also talked in that celebrate often with positive feedback. So we got the one on the left. Give time to process. Sometimes this is very, very important. You may have to give an input and wait until you get some reaction. You may have to give it again and wait. So give time to process. Not everybody processes everything immediately. If you ask a question, you don't get a response in half a second like you would for me answering you. I'd probably start before you were done. Wait. Patience is virtue, so be virtuous. Clear and simple instructions. If you start telling somebody that doesn't understand putting the skis on edge and pressuring the outside ski and you're wasting your time. So you got to be very, very, very simple in a lot of cases, not a lot of explanation. Physics isn't going to help. And on the bottom, we talked about this the other day, so I don't want to do it again, of the 4 teaching approaches, doer and feeler for people with ASD, cognitive intellectual, may be the better way of going. To get
So
things to
before
sink
we
in.
leave this slide, I want to talk about that red a little bit. What does it mean to celebrate often with positive feedback? Anybody want to take a crack? Put your instructor hat on.
As you learn, or as you they acquire skills, even if it's part of it, you do you talk about what they did well. We're not going to talk in generalities. We're not going to lie to them either. We'll focus on what it is that they do well, and then how can they move that ahead a bit for the next exercise.
Does positive feedback mean that we can't give constructive criticism?
No, of course not.
Yeah, and so this is one of those things here. So Oreo cookie feedback, right? Good.
Improve.
Something to work on. Good. So as instructors, we want to make sure that we're providing critical feedback in a positive sense. This celebrate isn't, oh yay, you got down the run. Good job. They haven't learned anything. Right?
Yeah.
We were working on turns. Those were much better. I saw the edging. I know that you were working harder on the right. Now I want you to put just as much effort on the left. But you know, what a massive improvement since 9 o'clock this morning, right? We still need to be constructive in our criticism and what we're working towards. Okay.
Could I
Slide.
could I
Whoops.
actually add just one more sentence to that?
No, you didn't answer your question, so you can't.
Well, someone just jumped right on in, and I know there's another Laura here too. So.
Oh. Go ahead.
But as myself being an athlete, and I do respond better with coaches that most of the time it's always what can you improve on, what can you improve on. But sometimes you need to give that little bit of, hey, you did this really well, and now let's work on this. So it's then gives that student the confidence. Oh, okay, I did that. Oh, okay, I want to move on to that next step. It kind of gives them, they want that reward. So it's really good paired up as Chris was mentioning about that, like Oreo cookie style.
It also goes back to, I use a lot of remember how long it took us to get this other skill that you're crushing now? Don't get frustrated with the fact that it's taking us longer. You're still going to work on it for a couple more runs, right? So positive feedback isn't just about 5 minutes ago. It can be about 5 days ago or 5 weeks ago on a skill they've mastered.
Okay, next one. Now we're defining the autism spectrum disorder. The green box in the middle, you can take that and put anything you want in there for autism, any of what we've spoken of already. If you've met one person with blah, you've met one person with blah, because this is sort of the catchphrase for the autism world, but it's equally for visually impaired, 6 years, whatever, but it's caught on with the autism spectrum. 1 in 59 children, 142 boys, 1 in 189 girls will have autism. At the bottom, the term spectrum refers to a continuum of severity and developmental impairment. About 4 or 5 years ago, I don't know if anybody remembers this, there was a huge bunch of news articles. Everybody was having trouble getting their kids into figuring out what their level of autism was, because they don't have enough people to actually do that stuff. And it actually takes a long time to go through everything, all the behaviors, everything that goes on to actually try and put somebody in a spectrum and figure out where they are. So I'm not sure how far that has come from them, but to get them into programs and schools where it's identified that they do have autism and the level, and to determine what they need to help them learn. It was a huge issue about 4 years ago. I haven't heard much in the last little while, but it's not like we're gonna say, oh, he's number 5 of 10 on the autism spectrum. It doesn't work that way. It's so many different things that go into it, and they had to interview parents and teachers and relatives and everything else. It's not something we're ever going to be able to put somebody on it. So yes, they have ASD, and that's a good starting point, but then we move on from there. Anybody want to add to that? I'm sure everybody has worked in one way or another with somebody with autism. Okay, next one. So parts of the brain affected by autism. Can anybody define autism in a non-medical, easy to understand forum? Anybody dealt with or have any training or background or anything? And so when I first had this given, it was by somebody from CADS, who is a kinesiologist with a specialty in cognitive issues. And he pretty much said it's a wiring problem. So everybody's brain works in different ways, and the way that the little synapses, neurons, whatever are going through there, they all fire a little bit differently. Everybody fires differently, but with ASD, they fire not in the way everybody else does. So you can't fix it, like I said earlier. So if you look down in the bottom right-hand corner, the cerebellum, attention, or motor, coordination, balance, speaking, that is exactly where I had the stroke, right in that area, and that is absolutely what these symptoms were. So you can have a quick look through there. I don't think we have to read through it. You can see it. Any additions there? Okay. Next slide. Okay, we are going to watch, you see at the bottom where it says advanced slide, don't click that yet. So as we go through this is actually Sesame Street from a bunch of years ago. What are some of Julia's strengths? Challenging for Julia. What are some tactics used to support Julia? It's a short video, and then we'll come back to this slide. We go to the 6:46 mark.
Okay. Didn't realize we were playing videos, so I probably didn't actually set the right buttons for this. So give me a minute.
Nope. It's okay. We'll give you about 30 seconds if you haven't got it. We'll move on. 28. Paul? Have we got Snowy the snow card out yet?
It's assembled.
I know.
It's looking pretty good. I just need to put the skis on. They're in the shop getting waxed and
waxed.
No, well, the ski, the base and stuff.
Okay.
Waxed and
Oh, there you
sharpened.
go. There's Sesame Street. Hopefully the sound comes through.
Here's some more paper.
And okay, so the three questions were, what are some of Julia's strengths? Let's go with Dan Jenner.
Creativity.
Yep. Let's go with Paul, since I don't think we picked on him yet.
I guess concentration. She was definitely focusing in on her painting.
Yeah. Concentrating when motivated, interested.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. So playing, jumping, happy, energetic, excited, a bunch of other things on there. What were some of Julia's challenges? Todd.
Social interaction.
How about that? That was the first one on the list. William or Bill, depending on what you prefer.
Yeah, perhaps one of her challenges was changing her concentration from her painting.
Yep. I'm just going to go through them quickly. We still have a lot of slides to go through. Social interacting, back and forth conversation, answering right away. Gooey or sticky sensations. Hyperreactive, remember that for later. Loud noises, hyperreactive, and a few others. Communication, Julie may not find it hard to express yourself sometimes. What were some of the tactics that you saw in here to help Julia? Let's go with Jan.
Sorry, with Dan?
Sorry, I meant Jay.
Okay, sorry.
I can't read.
So repeating questions.
Yep, absolutely. Doug.
They used a paintbrush because she had the sensory issues.
Absolutely, good. So paintbrush, she doesn't want to touch base, getting down to eye level. So the teacher, whatever his name was got right down at her level, got her attention before asking the question that Big Bird had to repeat from Big Bird. So got her attention first, then asked the question, then waited for the response. Taking a break, belly breathing, I didn't see that. Patting bunny fluff stir. Okay, it's a pretty good little Sesame Street. I like that one. Okay, slide. Social skills. We're still in the autism spectrum. Possible challenges, little to no eye contact. In some cases, you may, by getting eye contact, make things a whole lot worse, but you have to find that out. Struggle with perspective taking, difficulties with expected social behaviors. Anybody had anything social skills? There's tons and tons more than that. That's the start of it. So those are the possible challenges. We're going to go through these fairly quickly because, go, next slide. Communication possible, repetitive language. Sure, you've heard that a lot where they say the same thing over and over. I'm going to the park. I'm going to the park. I'm going to the park. I see the sun. I see the sun. I see the sun. Where it's repetitive. You can try and break that by finding something else to talk about, but it'll probably just come back. So up to you. Back and forth conversation may be a problem where you ask and they don't respond, much like little Julian film, and nonverbal communications.
So I'm just going to give two little examples on this because repetitive language is an interesting one, and we can, as instructors, encourage change there. We've had individuals, I've had the pleasure of working with an athlete when he was young and first started with us 20 years ago. Asked the same question 250 times a day. And so you have the same question over and over again. And after a year of that, I was like, okay, we're not doing that. You can have a new, and it was the same question actually throughout the year, 250 times a day. It's like you get one question a day. I want a new question next week. And then it was you get a one question in the morning, one question in the afternoon. And then now we can have full-on conversations. But it's little changes. So, you know, we can, coaching doesn't always have to be just in our skiing gear or just about the skiing as well. It can be as we're going up the lifts and everything else. And that kind of falls back into that back and forth conversation. We have other individuals that will, back and forth conversation doesn't talk about, you may get some information that you don't necessarily know how to process. personal details that maybe you wish you hadn't heard. Don't engage and direct the conversation elsewhere.
Yep. Yeah, as an example of repetitive, we have a skier that will come up to me every single week and go, "Hi, Jeff, where's the bathroom?" She's been to the bathroom. She knows where the bathroom is, but that's her way of striking up a conversation with people. So I don't tell her where the bathroom is, but we do continue with the conversation. And then she goes to the bathroom all by herself. Next slide. Restricted or repetitive behaviors, possible challenges. Perseveration. Anybody want to take a crack at that, baby? Jill knows what that is. She didn't get to answer the other one.
Well, to persevere is like they can either stick with something or they can be very much like against it, and getting off of that one thing can be really hard. So like, let's say, well, we have a client who is really big into her things that she does after skiing, and so it'll be like, no, I want to go home now, and getting off of that like train of thought can be really hard, but you can also use that to your advantage in the sense of okay, but we have to do, 5 runs or whatever before you get to go and do whatever. And then so she knows she's counting those 5 runs.
Yep, perfect. Absolutely correct. Dependence on routine. For a lot of our skiers in the autism spectrum, this is essential to persevere with. We don't trade unless it's absolutely necessary. We pair people up for the season. And unless that person isn't there and we have to put somebody else there, we do everything in our power to keep that consistent. It can throw somebody off for the entire day if they're not with the same person and they were expecting that person. So if we know they're not going to be there, I'll normally send mommy or daddy an email the night before if I know beforehand and say, so-and-so is not going to be there. We're going to have to ski with this person tomorrow. Can you start working on them? Sometimes it works. Sometimes it still takes a little bit of crying to get out to the hill, but normally in the end with some perseverance, it does work out. Difficulty with transitions. Yeah, sometimes it's hard to take them if you're going to build snowman or play with snowballs. Sometimes it's hard to get that transition back to skiing. So you might have to set a limit at the beginning of we'll make 2 snowballs, then we're going to go back skiing, or 5 minutes or something that they understand that gives them an end point so you can more easily transition to what you would like to do. Oh, here's an easy one. I'm going to give this to I'm going to give this one to, let's go with Catherine. Hyperreactivity. So it gives you what it is, greater than expected reaction. Can you give me an example that you've run into in anything? Doesn't have to be skiing related.
So they can't like there's too much stimuli coming at them.
Sure.
And they can't focus, or is it the opposite? Sorry.
Not quite right. And for hyperreactivity, I'll give you an example that we had a young lad that to put on his ski boot for the first 2 or 3 years of his skiing. At the beginning of the season, when he came in for a fitting, we put the boot on and all he'd do is get his toes into the boots and it was burning his foot. That's what he felt. That's what he expressed. So he had a hyperreactivity to a little bit of compression on his foot that he wasn't used to, and it manifested for him as it was burning his foot. So I think the first year we were about an hour and 15 minutes getting a boot on. We sent him home with the parents. They worked for a while. The next year at the beginning, much the same, a little less time, and then eventually it's putting the boot on and everything's. But it's
so he's extra sensitive to sensory stimuli.
Yeah. Could be gloves, could be a helmet, could be goggles, could be anything that causes a hyperreaction to something. Hypo is the other way, where your toes may be upside down in your boot and there's a lot of pain in there, or pain should be expected, but there is no reaction because they're hypo-reactive to that. And I haven't run into hypo-reactivity, but I'm sure anybody got an example of that, a real one?
I do.
Then feel free.
Someone with a spinal cord injury would fall into that.
Yeah.
But as an example, just to be able to bring it back to, it's not just about one of the disability groups, but I actually have had individuals that react less to pain. So they can have fallen awkwardly and not notice that they're bruised or not notice that they have a significant injury.
Actually, I just thought of
feel pain the same same way that we do.
So I have a good skiing example. We have a skier that it's -20 and he's okay skiing without gloves on. He does not feel the sensation of cold as we do. So we really have to watch out because he will not ski with a balaclava. He'll take his gloves off and swear that he's perfectly fine. So we really have to watch out for that. So I would classify him as hyporeactive.
So I know that I'm a course conductor and I should stand behind all of these slides, but one of the things that I get challenged with this whole section is the fact that we're hypersensitive, we're hyperreactive to ASD. Everything is about ASD on these slides. And I want everybody to think about this beyond ASD, because all of these points that you're seeing right now in the last 5-6 slides, in fact, relate back to individuals with Down syndrome, individuals that have a DBI, athletes that will have a Fragile X and everything else. Many of these characteristics, many of these restricted or repetitive behaviors and so forth that we're talking about actually span the group of CI. ASD is the most researched one and is the quote unquote sexy CI that gets all of the media attention. But the reality is most of what we're doing here, the teaching techniques, what we're doing as instructors is transparent to the actual diagnosis, if you will. How we teach.
I'm not sure when we actually transition out of the ASD section, to tell
It's
you
a
the
long,
truth,
it's a long while, because the person that created this only works with CI or only works with ASD.
Yeah. Okay, so good on that one. Next, please. Yeah, I guess we are still in ASD. Sleep, gastrointestinal, eating, diet, motor skills, anxiety, focus and attention. This will come in once we get to strategies a little while farther on. Remember this one for things that we should be looking at the start of the season and possibly on a weekly basis. Strengths, next one. You can tell I'm moving a little bit quicker here now. Strengths, I don't think we've. So strengths vary by individuals. I have lots of good stories on people with exceptional capabilities in CADS programs within the NCD, but I will give other people a chance to express anything that they have seen. So it's an open floor. Turn your mute off and speak. I'm going to have to tell my story. You don't want that. Okay. I skied for about 3 years with a young man, probably 23, who had music abilities like you would not believe. I love skiing with him because of that. I would go to an opera on the weekend and I would come back and say, listen, hey, I saw blah, 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 blah. And he would go, oh, yes, that was written in 1822 by so-and-so. It's in C minor. And then he would start singing most of the opera back to me while we were skiing. It was absolutely fascinating. When I first met him, he said, when were you born? I told him my birthday. And he said, the top 5 songs on the hit parade for my month of birth were da, 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 da. And I went and checked them, and I think they're all right. I mean, it depends on which thing that you use for it. But he was not a very good skier, but my goodness, was he good with music. He was taking a course Algonquin. I think if he ever was able to conduct an orchestra, he could do that. It was amazing to watch. Nothing to do with skiing, but man, I love skiing with him for that. I learned so much from him. Anybody else now? All righty. You'll find lots of people like that. We have a gentleman in our program. You can come up to him and give him your birthday and he'll say that was a Friday. And he is 100% right all of the time. Great skills. And when you meet him next time, say, what was my birthday? And he'll remember what your birthday was and what day of the week it was. Okay. So I'm not sure. So this is just to show that individuals with ASD have varied strengths, just like the neurotypical population. I guess we're neurotypical population, whatever that means. Persistent deficits in social communication, social interaction across context, restricted repetitive patterns of behavior, symptoms must be present at early childhood. So this is the diagnostic. We talked about that earlier. And what has to be done in order to get somebody diagnosed with ASD? It is not a simple process. So we can move on. Skip this one, please. I can tell you about this one in a lot less time than it takes. It was a gentleman that went up in a helicopter over New York City, did one spin around New York City, and then drew the entire New York City skyline in a room from memory with extremely good detail from that one trip around. That's how his brain worked. That's how his brain stored things. And he was able to reproduce very, very, very accurately, apparently, the entire skyline of New York City. Okay, now we're into AOT.
This is good. This is where Chris had asked, would AOT be something earlier? Would AOT be coming into some of our earlier conversations? So now we're circling back to that. And certainly AOT is one of those things that we're focused on, obviously, throughout our instructing. So great question earlier.
Yep. So specifically, find ways to connect. We already talked about that. Determine best communication. We've talked about that. Learn about possible triggers. Not really. Discover motivation and support strategies. Tell me, Paul, what is the best way to learn about possible triggers from somebody with ASD? It has to do with the ask part of AOT.
Yeah, well, ask. I was going to say ask the parents.
Absolutely. Yep. Because a lot of the skiers can't tell you what triggers are, can't tell you what motivation, can't tell you how to communicate properly with them. The parents have years of experience with that and can really, really, really well define those items that you need to figure out before you go on the hill, because quite likely they're not on the hill with you. So before you go skiing, sit down with the parents for as long as it takes and figure out what you need to know and what will make your skiing day go well. So how else can we figure this out?
Read their file.
Read the file. If they're new to the program, it may not have tons of information specific to what people have found out as part of the skiing program, but there's probably enough there from the parents when they sign them up that there will be good things to start your questioning with the parents on. Tell me about this, tell me about that. And you can ask as many questions as you want. They're probably there to help their child and will not cut you off because they want to have their child have a successful session.
So there's one more group of people that you can ask. And who would that be?
Previous instructors?
Awesome. Absolutely. Previous instructors, gold mine of information, previous volunteers, instructors, absolute gold mine of information. And I've got a tip that works really well for these types of athletes, but I will guarantee you works well with all types of athletes. But it's super important with individuals that have a challenge with a change in routine. It works exceptionally well. We talked about a learning contract. Who has the learning contract when you've established that rapport is the instructor. You're not going to be there the next week. how can we bridge that gap?
This comes down to me as a course coordinator. What can I do to improve everything?
Let next week's instructor meet the student first before.
Awesome.
Perfect. Ski with them the week before. If we know they're going to be away and I have to put somebody else on them the following week, we'll pair him up for that week so he gets all the information, or she gets all the information she needs to make it successful for the next weekend. Absolutely.
But there's one other thing that I would say, or a build on that, is it's how you as the instructor create that positive relationship or that core or that learning contract with your substitute for the following week. I want to introduce you to my really good friend, Jeff. He is an amazing skier. We've been doing a lot of stuff together for the last few years. And he is going to show you a bunch of stuff that will blow your mind next week or whatever, right? But if I introduce Jeff as one of my really good friends, it's amazing what the difference is with that creating that learning contract and that positive green dot in the middle for the following week. All of that tension, all of the change in routine has suddenly evaporated.
I think we tried this once. It might have been with Jill, actually, where we knew she was going to be away and we tried to put somebody on. And that really didn't go so well because he only wanted to ski with one person, and having that second person was like he was being followed. Was it you, Jill?
Yes, that was definitely with me. My client did not like that at all.
So there was a crying session. I think in the end, we found a way to convince him that it was a good thing. And I think we had him just follow a little farther back at the beginning. Is that right?
Yeah, we did some of that. And we also, I think I made it so that my client was then teaching him. I tried to use that a little bit, like, well, like, you and I are really good at this. So like, this guy's new. We need to bring him up to speed. Like I need you to show him how to do these things.
Yeah. So in the end, it worked out well. And the following week, it wasn't perfect, but it was good. And that's one, if she would have phoned me that morning and said, hey, I'm not available, I'm sick, whatever, then we would have had a lot more to convince the young lad that it was good to go skiing with somebody other than Jill.
But this is great because this is talking that very last point, discover motivation and support strategy. Yep. It wasn't going as well. And Jill was able to identify, you know what, let's improve their ability to communicate, be able to show some of the skills. They have to be able to demonstrate the skills to be able to teach it. So we can actually get this particular athlete to actually work on the stuff we want them to work on by teaching the other volunteer. So it was a great way to sort of turn the tables and not even let them know that we were actively working on skills.
So another thing you can do, which I do a lot because I am not overly good working with people in the autism spectrum. I survive, but I'm not good. But we do have people that are really amazing for some reason. I don't know if it's their looks or the sound of their voice or what it is, but they seem to be able to connect very quickly with just about everybody that I need for them to help out. Chris is one, Pierre Goulet is another, and we have a couple of other ones that seem to just have that knack of knowing when to be firm and when to be supportive and when to just step back and wait a little bit before we move anymore. So if you watch those people, and you'll know who they are very, very quickly, watch them and try and pick up tips from that. It's amazing what you'll learn. Okay.
How helpful would a conversation about the other activities, like other sports or physically physical activities that they do, that they enjoy, where they may have things they don't like to do. That should help as well in terms of determining some maybe potential triggers in a sporting environment.
Yep, absolutely. And it makes that bond closer too. You've now asked them what they're interested in. So they know you're interested in what they want to do, more likely to help you out. Absolutely.
This is why we talk about this as being take away ASD, take away CI, talk about athletes. That point there, find ways to connect, determine best communication strategies, learn about possible triggers, motivate and support. I'm pretty sure I do that every single day with every single athlete. I don't reserve this for only those with ASD or only those athletes that have a cognitive disability. This is my daily mantra for every single student that I work with.
Okay, let's go to the next one because we bridged the next slide. Okay, look at that. What does your child like for rapport? What other sports does he do? Does he like movies? Does he like cartoons? Does he play games? What games does he play? What movies does he like? All of that is really, really good for bringing up conversations, distracting them, just letting them know that you care about them and you know what they're interested in. Is there anything I should avoid? That is very, very important. I'll tell one quick story. Chris has heard it a million times. Somebody that works with people with autism spectrum disorder for a long, long, long time. They had a child that they couldn't figure out what the trigger was. Parents didn't know what it was. They couldn't figure it out. It was in a home environment or at a hospital environment. One day they figured out that that trigger was the color red, if you can believe that. And I don't know how they found it out, but it was the color red, and they tested that, and sure enough, it was the color red. So in a CADS environment with their old jackets, that wouldn't work very well at all. Now, that's why we got blue jackets now. Just kidding. Okay, and is there one support strategy you would recommend I definitely use? Now, what the parents have and what they've gone through may not be the same things that you need. They may not be the support strategy that you need. It may not be the triggers. You could create different triggers. You're in a new environment. Maybe they've never been on the hill before. Maybe they don't like the sound of a snowboard or a ski coming by them. So all that is a great starting point, but you got to use your powers to determine what you have that is about the same thing. Good. Okay, go by the next slide really, really quick before anybody can read it. You didn't get by it quick enough. Okay, communication strategies. I don't think there's anything here that is, well, actually, we do need to talk about them. So talk less, do more. Anybody disagree with that one? Less talk, more skiing.
We said that they're doer and feelers.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So the time to talk, do the socializing, everything, maybe on the chairlift, and when you're on the hill, it's time to ski. Don't stop all the time. Don't talk a whole bunch. Don't spend 5 hours trying to explain a drill that they may or may not understand. So less talk, do more, but do it constructively when you're doing things so that you are improving things. Use show and say strategies. Anybody want to take a crack at that one? Pretty simple, actually. So within the CADS manual or online up in the CADS national website, you can find a whole bunch of pictograms. So they show everything from putting on boots, putting on skis, stop, go. There's, I don't know, there's probably 200 of them in there. They're just little tiny things that you can cut out and plasticize and hold up. So you can show them something and say, snowballs for now, and then we're going skiing. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But pictograms sometimes work very, very well. Here's a very,
Question,
go ahead.
question. Have you used pictograms?
No. Because I almost exclusively use sit-ski tethering. And
Okay, has anybody used pictograms?
I can tell you a very good use of pictograms if you would
Yes.
like.
Yes.
We've used pictograms a lot here in CADS at Edelweiss, as well as some of the other hills.
So here is a very good use of pictograms that I don't think anybody's on this call that was part of it. I think Calabogie does it now. The first I heard of was Mont Cascade, and it was Laura Wismer. I'm not sure Laura's on this one, but they had a big board that at the beginning of the day, their skier could come up and pick, this is what they want to work on for the day, and this is what they want to do for a fun thing. So they peel off the little pictograms, put them on the chart. And at the beginning of it, part of the contract, the learning contract, was we're going to do work on right turns or something. And then we'll play a little bit of snowballs or roll in the snow or tag or whatever you want to do. But that was their contract for the beginning of the day. Simple, visual, and it worked really, really well with the person that they had set it up for. And then at the end of the day, they'd go back and they'd go, well, we did this and we did this. And it was a successful day for them. Okay, we'd already talked about give time to process. Sometimes it isn't immediate that they're going to understand what you're talking about. Match their communication style, which is very, very important. Long sentences with technical terms in it may not work in a lot of cases. And say it back to me, but you don't want them to repeat exactly what you said, because they will repeat exactly what you said. If you can get them to say it back to you, but a little bit differently from what you just said, then you understand, then you know that they understood what you're trying to get them to do.
The yes, no questions are a big deal, because if you just ask yes, no, oftentimes they'll just,
I meant to stop on that one, but I skipped by it.
Yeah, they'll just repeat back the question, or yes to everything. Does this hurt? Yes. Does this hurt? Yes. Or whatever the question is.
Or a really bad example of yes, no question is, do you want to go skiing now? No. Well, that's not the answer I wanted. But now you have the answer from them, and then trying to change that from a no to yes, we're going to go skiing. So I think it comes up a little bit later in here. You don't ask, do you want to go skiing? You ask, do you want to go skiing now, or do you want to go skiing in 1 minute? So either way, you get the result you want. You get to go skiing, but they get to make the decision that they go now or in 1 minute. So putting on boots, do you want to put your left one on first or your right one on first? Mittens the same way. Do you want to put your hat on before we put the gloves on, or whatever? So avoid yes, no questions, because if you get the no answer, you may have a hard time changing that. Okay. Do a really quick one on the next one. Oh, there we go. We're not going to break, because we're going to get through this.
Okay, go to the next slide and you'll see it's going to be good.
Okay.
Oh, gee, we were just talking about that.
Well, I missed the slide now. I'm all thrown off. No, I'm kidding. Go. This one is way more important. So this is a good one for pictograms. First, we do this, then we do that.
Chris from George.
Oh, Mayday on the hill. Okay, he's muted. So first we do this, then we do that. It's a contract. They understand it. They get to pick what you're doing, and it works out enormously well for the most part. Questions? Anybody tried that? Anybody have experience doing it?
I do that a lot with that same client we were talking about earlier. He's very big on wanting to play in like the ski park and stuff. So that's always our big thing, is that if we get to do whatever our goal is for that day, once we do that, then you can go for a run through the ski park. Or if I see however many turns, or if I see whatever it is that we're working on, we give those little mini goals throughout the day, helps to kind of keep them motivated and focused on the thing that we're trying to achieve.
And your goal as an instructor is to ensure 100% that those are met.
Yes.
Because if you fail once and don't get to the then part of it, it may not work the next time. So if first we're going to do 5 more runs, then we're going to go in and get warmed up, or then we get a hot chocolate if it's okay with her mother, or then you get one of my special cookies that I brought for you with the parents' permission, of course, or whatever the then is. It could be just playing in the snow, going over a jump, whatever that then is. But you really, really have to. It's a contract. You have to follow up on that. Okay, the next one. Along the same line, these are all strategies that you can use now, as opposed to we're out of these are all the bad things. So now we're into things that can help you. Motivation and behavior boards. That first one is really good. We're going to do 5 runs and we're going to go snowballs at the end of each run. Check mark, check mark, check mark. Countdown strips show how many time more. These things were meant to be X'd off or removed or a sticker put on. And every time you get down, you get another one. You will find that most of the kids know exactly how many runs they've done. They know exactly what the then is, and they are motivated. I have actually used the right beside where you go through the gates to get on the lift. It has all the things you're supposed to do on the hill, code of conduct. So I said, when we get to this one, that's our last run. So I get to teach them some of this stuff about being on the hill, the code of conduct, and he knows exactly when I say this one, we're done.
So with the motivation, I'm just gonna, one of the things you don't see here is coaches or program coordinators or significant individuals. So quite often you can use positive feedback to somebody. Honestly, parents don't tend to work very well. I'm not going to give your mom or dad a really good report.
No. It's got to be.
It's
got to be for their benefit.
Like, yeah, Jeff, as program coordinator, they're looking up to Jeff because he's scheduling everything else. So it's like, we're going to do this. We need to see these 3 steps, and then we get to tell Jeff all about how well you did. And it's amazing to see that just that level of motivation with the then is unbelievable.
And when I was growing up with kids, the reward system wasn't what I was ever taught. It was, you tell your kids what you want them to do, and if they don't do it, you punish them. Things have changed, apparently. Okay, we're getting there. Timers are a good way, and you'll be amazed. You can use your watch, you can use your phone, whatever, put a timer on there. Say 5 minutes, we're going to take a break, then we're going to go back skiing, and they will ask you 1,000 times, let me see your watch, let me see your watch, let me see your phone, let me see your phone. But if you want to set a limit on the time for doing something, a timer works amazingly well for making sure that you follow what you said you were going to do, and then you move on, and it makes that transition to the next one that much easier because you have that contract beforehand. You may still have some little down times where they don't believe you and then they try and challenge you, but hey, contract is contract, and you move on. Next one. Choices is always good. If they make the choice, they're way more likely to fulfill their requirement on that contract. So these are all the good things that they can do. These are probably if then, or so we do this and then. So you give them the choice of take a break, build snowman, play with snowballs, whatever it is. And on bottom can be verbal, written, pictures, whatever works best for you.
Okay, so now snowballs and snowmen, snow doesn't always cooperate. So we may want to have a different, a few other options.
Absolutely. It may be taking your boots off and running up the hill 100 yards.
It could also be, which run do you want to do? Rather than saying, do you want to do a run? It's, do you want to do Easy Street or do you want to do Chemin de Bois? And that's one of those win-win choices.
Yeah.
Next one, sort of what I was talking about with Mo Cascade. So this is the ski day in the morning and afternoon. They have, whoever did this obviously has a board. You can pick so you say bye, you get organized, you take the gondola upstairs up, you go into the hut, you do all those things in the afternoon. This is what you do, and then you see you later. So this just gives a nice representation of what you're going to do during the day, not in any great detail, not what you're going to be skiing, but it sets the expectations for the day. It's sort of like, you guys, you have no idea how many slides are in this. So at the beginning, I should have said, hey, there's 54 slides and we only have, well, we have another 12, 15 minutes because we're ending at whatever time, 8:30, whether we're done or not, but we will be done. So we'll move a little bit quicker from this point. So this is a great way to lay out the day. It gives you a contract with them. And in this one, they wouldn't get to pick that much because the order is fairly important, but you can explain the day and the expectations are there. Next one. This one, I didn't spend any time looking at it, but I think it's more for, if you show them, took a video from last week, you can show it at the beginning of the thing, show them doing whatever they have, and then you can say, hey, look at how good you did, look at you're doing this right, you're doing this right, and it sort of motivates them to keep going. In some cases, we have, who was it? I can't even remember who it was. We took video, they took it home and played it all week, and it wasn't so much to motivate them to come back, but it was so that they could see themselves skiing, and that would sort of refresh their memory all the time. Hey, this is what skiing is about. This is what I look like skiing. And it was a visual. So when they got back, it wasn't as disastrous as we have to learn from putting our skis on again, because they had watched the video through the week a few times. And that worked really, really well with that individual.
So before we move on from here, I think this is a very, very good tool to be able to do the videos, and they like to be able to show off to their somebody talked about their can we play to their egos? Yeah, absolutely play to the egos, because look how well you did, and especially if you can show from 1 week to several weeks later, like the first we're learning, now we're doing really well, or we've mastered that skill and we're going to go on, and they can show their grandmother or whoever it is. But I want to put a caution in here as well, because, and this is a perfect opportunity to do it because we're holding an iPhone or whatever the phone is. I want to caution all of the instructors about social media. You cannot share that info. You cannot post those videos unless you have permission from the parents or the guardian or the athlete if they're above 18. And I will also caution you to be very careful about who you friend or accept friend requests on social media, particularly with the participants, and particularly with the younger participants or with the cognitive disabilities.
So my personal Facebook thing is I do not put videos of anybody for any reason on Facebook, with or without their permission. I just do not do it. I will send them a video if they want to put it up on Facebook. God bless them, but I'll make sure the other volunteer, I could care less for anything, so I'm okay, but I'll make sure the other helper is okay with it as well. We don't want somebody up there that doesn't want to be there. So, and it's not only for kids. The lady I skied with yesterday in the sit ski, she was 48, I would guess. I don't know for sure, but I filmed her just so I could show her at the end what she was doing. And she goes, oh, send that to me. I want to give that to everybody. And so, yeah, I'll send it to you. And then Greg asked, well, do you have Facebook? And I went, no. I will send it to her. She can do whatever she wants with it, because he was going to upload it on Facebook. And I said, nope.
Yeah, it's super, super important. That is it's part of the code of conduct, and it falls under misuse and abuse of personal information. So we need to be really careful of that as certified instructors.
So this starts to get a little bit repetitive from here. We've gone over a lot of this before, but so we're going to move it quickly. So next slide. Okay, these are these are probably a good one to use or have if you're going to have a couple of pictograms, and if they work for your student, especially the weight one. We're probably not going to get a lot of people through the cutoff line. We're going to have to be sending people through the longer line now. And we have some kids that really don't want to wait and they're used to going through. So maybe a use of a wait, stop, go pictograms may work for them. Anyway, go. And go. Oh, we didn't review. I'm going to read them. We talked about visual schedules, shape of the day. First, then, which is really important. Countdown strips, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we'll go. Token boards, putting things up there that they want to do or don't want to do even. The timer, breaks, giving them choices to pick things. Social scripts, running through the day so they know what's going on. Video modeling so they can see themselves skiing. Stop going weight cards. And that is a small sampling of what would be available. Okay. This is meant to be a role play where you help somebody get their stuff on. It's kind of hard to do a role play here, so. But you may have to find strategies to help get them dressed or help get them into their skis, or help, you may have to find a way to help with that.
We'll do something similar to this when we get on snow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Training.
So next is stop and think. This took me a while to figure out what they're actually asking in this one. So kinesthetic learning, hands-on techniques, tethers, tip connectors, poles, hoop, dip, sliders, and rider bars. So the question is, why am I using this? So if you have to do one of these, what are some of the, don't even think about safety concerns. What are some of the concerns of using teaching aids in order to get somebody on the hill and effectively skiing? There's one that's very, very, should be on right on the tip of your tongue.
John just posted dependency.
John has the right answer, dependency. So you take somebody down, you have them tethered, you give them great support, they learn to ski with you helping them all the time. It becomes very, very difficult to remove those tethers once they're dependent on them. So yes, they're a very, very good aid for helping stop somebody, giving them confidence. Tip connectors the same way. You don't have to worry about the tips of your skis, just heels in and out, makes it much easier to ski. But if you become dependent on them, then it's a long-term thing. Same with pole, all of those things are the same thing. So you really have to, can I do this without that? Will they actually turn? Will they be able to stop themselves? Will they, why do you have that aid that you're using?
So there's one tool that is not listed here that should be listed here. And specifically, I'm thinking about when an athlete has fallen. What is the one tool that we need to think about, or what is that one thing that we need to stop and think about, saying, why am I using this, or what am I doing?
Anybody? Open question.
Mm-hmm.
You all know the answer. And you're all guilty. Me too.
Pulling them up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as instructors.
Yeah.
Right?
No
So
good.
especially when they're young, it's super easy to want to help the athlete up all the time, or just to pick them up and put them back on skis. It's a funny thing though, for some reason, little kids tend to grow up and they tend to get very, very big. And if all they've had ever done is being picked up, it's hard to change that habit when they're 200 pounds.
And And there's a couple times where it is perfectly fine. They may not be able to get themselves up, but they have to do everything in their power to get as far along in that process as they can. So if they're in a sit ski, they may not have the strength in their upper body to actually get themselves back up, but you do everything to get them in the right position. You get them doing all the right things. You get them doing as much as they possibly can, then you help them. And the other thing is that towards the end of the day, they may be getting very, very fatigued. And if you don't want them to stop right there because they're just too fatigued, you may want to give them a hand at that point. But we're supposed to be teaching towards independence, so we're not there to pick them up all the time. We need to help them help themselves.
Part of ski teaching, part of your job as an instructor is 360. Skiing does not start on coming at the top of the hill going down, and it doesn't end as they reach the bottom of the lift. It's about getting their own equipment, finding their skis, putting their skis on, sliding, getting their boots on, getting up from falling, being able to respect other participants on the hill. It's the full 360 that experience. So we instruct all of those aspects at different varying levels and different times.
So a lot of this is going to be, I think, a little bit repetitive from the other one. So zing through them, hands-on. We talked about with skiers with a visual impairment. See, I got it right this time. So we've already talked about this, using hands-on, ask for permission. Sometimes it gives them, like with the snowboarder, they get a much larger center of balance when there's two people there. You have a big old fulcrum or A-frame to give them support and keep them stable, holding on to their hands, help them stop. So hands on, go. Tip connectors, biggest thing with those. Whoops. I got ahead of myself. Tethers, I think we've talked about those before, and you will use them on the hill and they'll be described many, many times. Tip connectors. Yep, keeps the skis from crossing, keeps them there. All they got to do is worry about the heels. But then again, there are a few things. You can't move your skis apart, which could be a bad thing. If you're falling and you need to grab yourself, may not be possible with tip connectors. So there's good and bad with those. Poles, same thing. Great support. Absolutely. When they're needed, they're needed. We got a hoop, snow wing, and a ski pal. I think the ski pal is, I'm not sure. Snowing is the one in the middle. Ski pal looks like a hula hoop. So I think the ski pal is actually that big square hula hoop. I think that's a ski pal, but I can't prove it. So those are all aids that you can use. Keep going. Snow slider. Somebody with weak lower extremities really can't support themselves. They can support themselves with their upper body, leaning on the snow slider a little bit. The rider bar is much like the slider. And I think we talked about those already. Maybe in the VI module. Adaptive tools. Okay, this is, Chris mentioned this already. They should not be used as a safety device. We shouldn't call them a safety device. They are aids in helping people turn and control their speed, not a safety device. And that's CADS is moving that way. It's not for safety, to help them turn and manage their speed. How are tools used to manage fear? I think we talked about that already. I'll give you my one example. Lady, multiple sclerosis, came up to the hill, was petrified to go skiing. She was a very, very good skier, stand up. She wanted me to put a tether on her, just a single tether, just in case everything went pear-shaped. I never once put tension on that. We only had it on for one run, but that was enough to manage her fear that she could actually stand up, get down the hill, could still turn. She had to turn differently. She had to go slower than she was used to. She had to manage her speed, but just having something there with me behind her gave her got rid of her fear enough that she could relax and actually concentrate on doing the things that she should be. And taking it off right after that first run was probably essential for her. She may have become dependent on it very, very quickly. So it was one run and done. Okay. Excessive use may cause a lot of repetitiveness. I already covered that before. Okay, keep going. Keep going. We already covered the parents' questions. Oh, we're getting real close to the end if we're doing this. How to be successful in a lesson. Continually use your AOT. Continually use your AOT. Continually, all the time. You got to go through that process. We beat that up last time at the beginning of the last lesson. Build rapport. Talked about that many times. Remember your toolbox. If you can't think of something that will help you, there are lots of people around. If you have your coordinator, I don't know, your technical person, somebody you trust, somebody that's done it before, ask questions. If you do go up to the bar afterwards, perfect time when you got a bunch of people there say, hey, I got this problem. I got little Joey and he's having trouble with this, and I'm sure you will get 10 suggestions to help you out. You may want to pick the best one for you, but you will get as much help as you ask for if you do ask. So do ask. And guess what? Nope, skip 2 more, 1 more. Okay, there is probably, I'm not sure if it's actually on your, I get stuff as a course conductor that I'm not sure that you get yet, but they did a really good e-training video or a PowerPoint presentation that's a little bit interactive. It's about 90 minutes in length. It's in small segments, so you can do it over time. A lot of the things that we talked about here were brought up in that countdown e-training. So it is available to you. I highly encourage you to look at it. It's not perfect, but it's very, very good. I actually enjoyed it. It was 90 minutes that I didn't mind putting into it. There was a meeting last night for all the course conductors across the country to give critique on it. So that's why I say it may not be on your Snowline page yet, but I think it will get there in the near future. So when it comes up, you'll get an email or a message from CADS National saying, hey, and then it's just at the bottom of your opening page in Snowline, it says countdown. And it's actually well done. They paid money, or they had a donation and they paid money, and it's good. A lot of the stuff we covered here and a little bit more. Questions? Oh, it's there now. Todd tells me it's there now. Anybody watched it? It's too late now. You can't watch it tonight because it's past everybody's bedtime. Anyway, any final questions, points, discussions? Thank you. Everybody go to bed.
Thank you.
Okay, so I will put, let's see, probably a link to a copy of these slides up on our CADS-NCD training website. Also, I have recorded this evening's session, so I'll put the recording up, and if I can find that countdown thing, I will put a shortcut to that as well.
And just so everybody knows, when I hesitated and stuttered and made dumb, it's because I was trying to get all the terminology right, and it changes so rapidly. Sometimes I forget where I am on the, so I'm sure I made mistakes. I apologize if I did, but I did say skier with the visual impairment a lot. All right, bye-bye, everybody.
Have a nice evening.
Night, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Yep.
It's Brenda.
Yep.
I was just wondering, it's all right if I share this presentation with, I'm with a curling club, and we're developing a student program, and we do have ASDs.
Yep.
Or is ADS?
There is no copyright on any of this if you want to show it and use it.
Yeah.
It's
Okay, great.
$200 every time you use it to me.
Okay, all right,
No, I'm kidding.
fabulous.
A picture.
Thank you very much. Have
All
a
right.
great day.
Bye-bye.